Today's podcast is sponsored by Hearable, the book reading subscription for people who are too lazy to read by themselves or simply too much of a dullard to know how. When you take out a Hearable subscription, a peasant will follow you around as you get on with your business. No, not that sort of business. And they will read a book to you while you work. Hearable offers a wide selection of more than 6 books, including The Half-Life of Cheese by C.J. Cheddar, The Importance of Being Important by Lord Bunting of Lee, Adventures in Crop Rotation by Jess Frimlington, Candles and Their Uses by James Lucerne, Memoirs of a Blanket Weaver by Amelia Textual, the best-selling Tale of Two Mid-Sized Towns by Charles Spiggins, and that's the entire library. Hearable is only 3 groats every full moon.
Hello, and welcome to Morris's unofficial tabletop RPG talk. As always, I am your host, Russ, aka Morrus, and with me is my silent but deadly compatriot.
Yes, having assumed a full gaseous form, I'm Peter Coffey from the Southampton Guild of Roleplayers. Hello!
So, Peter, what's caught your eye this week?
What's caught my eye? I would definitely have to say Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay has been very much at the forefront of my eye.
Okay.
Big fan of it. I didn't get to play it in first edition. My little brother did. Still jealous of him to this day. I got to play Space Hulk instead.
I played first edition and second edition. Haven't played anything since. Oh no, I played the Fantasy Flight Games one. Was that third?
Something like.
But, anyway, I played that one. So I haven't played this one yet, but it's out for pre-order now.
Yes.
And if you get to pre-order,
you get a 345-page PDF, which doesn't have all the maps and so forth. So it's all sort of a beta copy. But yeah, there's a lot of exciting and flavourful thing. And my WhatsApp has been absolutely blowing up with one of the guys who got it on theirs, and they are really stoked to see it.
Wow, I'm really excited to see that one too.
Absolutely, it's going to be great.
Do you know what the thing I've spotted this week is?
What did you spot this week?
It's a Kickstarter.
A Kickstarter?
Yes, it's called Your Best Game Ever.
Your best game ever.
Your best game ever.
My copyright.
So it's a Kickstarter by Monty Cook Games.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
And instead of being like a rule book or a game, it's a book about running games and how to sort of like manage games and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
So what they've done is they've
sort of a GMing advice.
A GMing advice thing. So like Robin Laws has been doing that for years.
His
Mike
guys.
Shee. I think we've mentioned this on the podcast before, actually.
Yeah. Oh, what's his name? Mike Shee's a slippery...
Sly. A sly.
Flourish.
Sly Flourish.
Sly Flourish, not Slippery Flourish. That would be a different thing altogether.
Indeed.
Anyway.
So in my best game ever, so Monty Cook Games have contacted a whole bunch of sort of industry experts and professionals and stuff.
Yes.
And they're all contributing to this book, which covers all sorts of different topics, from managing groups to running NPCs, basically everything, related to a game. And it looks like they're sort of dealing with in this Kickstarter. It's really interesting.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So it's like, I'm getting the idea it's a series of small articles.
Oh, no, it's a book.
It's a full book, but it's composed, it's got a lot of different...
Yeah, like essays, I think.
Small essays, right.
I think is the approach there.
The odd monograph or two. Yeah,
indeed. So I'll be definitely picking that up when that comes out.
No, indeed. It sounds like a must-have. Yep.
So, also sort of in the news, do you remember last week we covered a couple of items which we said would be announced shortly after our podcast?
Well, like Guildmasters' Guide to Ravnica.
Well, I can exclusively reveal right now that as soon as you and Angus left and headed home, suddenly the internet exploded with a deluge of exciting announcements about things we just talked about in the podcast. So I can confirm that the Expanse Kickstarter did launch exactly as we said it would.
Ah, indeed. Prophetic.
The Guildmasters' Guide to Ravnica did indeed get announced exactly as we said it would.
And did it have as much detail as we hoped for?
Not really.
No.
Still doesn't have a page count, so we'll still have to go with our scientific method from last week.
We know it weighs £2. That's 96 pages.
And finally, Eberron was indeed announced, as we said it would be. Eberron, there's the
Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron.
So there's a PDF available on the Dungeon Masters Guild.
Yes.
With a sort of basic, exactly as we predicted, intro and primer to Eberron. And now people who publish on the Dungeon Masters Guild can now publish adventures and materials set in Eberron. And I believe there's a big old handful of them. I mean, would you like to hear about some of the ones that are actually out there?
Oh, yes, that'd be amazing.
Because I believe we actually have a list.
Like, I was just putting my geek hat on. I knew Eberron had reached the outside world because suddenly one of the forums I frequent, which is in some ways concerned with the optimization and correct creation of characters, did absolutely explode because they've released all sorts of playtest material within it, which in the traditions of 5th Ed D&D is very, very, very overpowered. Like, they've got Warforged, seem to be making everyone very excited right now. So, we've got the Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron.
Okay, yeah.
And Eberron, I believe that's sort of similar to Ravnica in that it's magic has replaced science, so therefore it's very techno-magical society. Is that correct?
Yeah, sort of. I've not actually played in Eberron myself.
No.
So I kind of know about it secondhand. But yeah, that seems like a reasonable... I mean, if you look at the cover to the Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron here, you can see a train with... a magical arcane powered train.
Yeah, and, it's in fact, it's sort of like it's an old steam train, except it's like crackling with blue electricity. And then from an old fashioned sailing ship, which is also flying through the sky, you've got, looks like an armoured knight with sort of an Ursat's lightsaber who's clearly getting ready to jump down on it, possibly in some sort of heist or soda reference.
Possibly. So on DM's Guild, as well as this Wayfinder's Guide, obviously, which is the official release from Wizard of the Coast, it's written by Keith Baker, who's the original designer of Eberron. There's 6 chapters. It's quite a sizable PDF.
Okay.
Just basically, if you're a player who's new to Eberron, it's basically everything you need to begin a campaign there. And for those who know about Eberron already, it's an update to the 5th edition rules, especially including the races section, which includes stats for sort of changelings, Kalashtar, Shifter, and Warforged. There's an overview of Sharn, a sort of prominent city in Eberron, and dragon marks, which is another sort of important aspect of Eberron. So it's kind of like pulp adventure, kind of the sort of arcano-technic sort of veneer over the top. So we have by various authors. We have Encounters in Sharn, which is it's some adventures. It's 12 adventures set in Eberron, broken into sort of various sort of levels and things like that. So there should be something for most people. Also on DM's Guild, you can pick up the Razorclaw, which is a sub-race for use with the Shifter race. The Shifters presented in the Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron. The Razorclaw is a Shifter sub-race by Travis Legg. It's a short piece, focuses entirely on that one sub-race. So pay what you want product. So you can, just pay $1 for it, or whatever it is you want.
I think Hasbro was briefly in the news and caused quite a bit of a stir.
Yeah. Well, did you want to talk about that?
I'd love to talk about that.
Go on and you talk about that.
As I understand it, with my admittedly limited second-hand knowledge, the CEO of Hasbro said, you know what he thought was awesome? Esports was awesome. And Dungeons and Dragons and esports. Except apparently he didn't say that. He was talking about Magic the Gathering, which is much easier to see potentially has people playing esports because people will watch poker with every evidence of enjoyment.
Yeah, I mean, this is quite an interesting little thing. So basically, he appeared on a US show called Mad Money on CNBC. Yeah. And he was sort of involved in an interview mainly about sort of like stocks and shares and, corporate stuff that I don't understand at all.
Toys R Us has had a...
they mentioned Toys R Us and things like that.
That's affected the share price stuff,
And as part of that conversation, they started talking about esports. Yes. And primarily they were talking about Magic the Gathering was the context. But the subject of D&D came up as well, because he was also mentioning that D&D is doing very well at the moment and so forth. I think it's a lot of sort of Twitch viewers and stuff. And the two subjects kind of got conflated in people's minds. Yeah. And it seemed to me also at the time, but that he was actually talking about Dungeons and Dragons
Could be right for esports.
Well, the problem was CSNBC, in their article, they sort of conflated the two quotes themselves. And they said in their article about the interview, this is what they said: games like Dungeons and Dragons could one day be ripe for esports competitions.
Right.
Which is not what he actually said in the interview.
No.
So he did say that Magic the Gathering.
But I will say, he didn't say it, but it doesn't make it any less true.
Well, D&D does have a long and varied history of competitive play. I mean, a lot of the original modules are all sort of like designed for tournament play. The RPGA used to run sort of big sort of tournaments at various conventions and so forth. Competitive play has is very much ingrained into D&D's history, and it still goes on to this day. Yeah. I mean,
Gary Gygax said that he wrote that he thought it would be perfect for having like lots of people seeing it on TV and so forth. I mean, were you ever in a tournament, or did you see one?
I have never played one myself, no.
Okay. I was just wondering how they would actually work. Because I was listening to some of the trailers for the Ravnica stuff, and they were talking about having a maze. And it occurred to me, bearing in mind that we talked last week about computer games such as Neverwinter Nights, and how one could then use that as the basis for a server and a persistent world, is you could actually have something a bit like, say, the Dota 2 Championships or League of Legends, where people can play online, competing against another team, potentially on time or some other way, in order to create an exciting adventure. And the Dungeon Crawl Classic is what D&D does best.
Well, I do have a little bit of information about sort of D&D's history with competitive play. So the RPGA started the D&D Open Championship back in 97.
Oh, yes.
In 2008, it changed its name to the D&D Championship Series. Ended in 2013, and then Wizards of the Coast brought it back for 5th edition at Origins Game Fair in 2016.
Interesting.
So, tournament play's been well established for many decades, and tournaments, they're kind of like originally associated with wargaming conventions.
Yes.
But the very first sort of large-scale D&D tournament, it took place at Origins in Baltimore back in 77. And about 1,500 people attended that convention.
Good for that time.
With 120 of them participating in the D&D tournament.
What? Get out. Really? That's amazing.
There's also, have you heard of the National Society of Crazed Gamers? NASCRAG.
I've never heard of the National Society for Crazed Gamers, NASCRAG.
So they ran D&D tournaments from 1980 up till 2011.
Okay.
Then they switched over to Pathfinder instead.
Fair enough. Something else that has come out is the Zombiecide RPG.
Right, okay. Well, based on the board game, is it?
Yes, based on the board game by Cool Mini or Not. So, as you can expect, they probably got a lot of plastic models already set and raring to go. The theme is obviously survival horror. I personally will be breathlessly waiting for the Black Plague expansion, because that's my Zombiecide jam, really.
Right, okay.
Which is set in a pseudo-medieval Europe, where you have like elves and sorcerers and wizards and whatnot, killing necromancer zombies. Because why don't you?
Okay.
Yeah. So they've got a adventure first off called something like The Crossroads, which is how one is supposed to introduce one's characters together as a GM, and let you get into the game, and then you crack on having survival horror fun, I can only assume. I don't know a lot about it, because I think it's like they're still in the Kickstarter stage, and they're probably going to make quite a lot of adjustments and so forth. But with Cool Mini or Not involved, there's all sorts of different opportunities available, because they are very focused on swift play and good game design.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's something to keep an eye out for.
Definitely.
What about Robotech?
Robotech
role-playing game?
I think that was mentioned last week, and I was largely clueless.
Okay, so we mentioned a couple of weeks ago the lawsuit being settled. If you recall.
That's right. There was like there was a cartoon and like another property.
Yeah, so the original cartoon was called the Macross Saga, and sort of BattleTech and sort of Robotech kind of span out from that.
Yeah,
along with some other things. Strange Machine Games have announced a licensing deal to publish a brand new Robotech role-playing game.
Mm.
And we've got some art for it, which you can see is sort of very colourful, very cartoony, robots, planes and so forth.
Oh, yeah, you got like a chap in a green and silver, I don't know, jump pack suit, chasing and sending a whole pile of missiles at some unfortunate chap in. Looks like a relatively modern day fighter.
Yeah.
Does not look good for the chap in the fighter, must say.
It says UN Spacey on the plane.
Right.
Whatever that means. You can pilot any mecha or command any starship from the saga. Mm-hmm. Asymmetrical play. Play as an officer while your allies fight in Valkyries.
Okay.
So I don't know an awful lot about this, but it's quite interesting. It's due for release in the second quarter of 2019, and what it says here is expected to come out between 200 and 250 pages.
Okay, not a bad size.
Yeah, so that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, well, a bit of asymmetry in play does sound good. Because obviously the classic example of that would be the Shadowrun role-playing game with hackers and so forth. Except this sounds like you've got the officer giving orders or probably buffing and supporting the actual people doing things in the Valkyries. So yeah, it's interesting. So listeners at home, we've got a very exciting guest in today. We've got Dr. Victor Von Wolfhausen-Smythe.
Well, hello!
This man needs no introduction. Pleased to meet you, Dr. Wolfhausen-Smythe.
Pleased to meet you too.
Did you have a good trip getting here today?
I did. It well reminded me of the trip when I crossed the Antarctic. I had 7 huskies, you know. 3 of them died. I had to eat them. But we made it across the Antarctic after I wrestled a polar bear.
You wrestled a polar bear? How exciting.
As you know, polar bears are not native to the Antarctic.
That is true.
But I met one nevertheless.
How unfortunate. The poor thing had escaped.
So I wrestled this polar bear.
Yes?
Beat it into submission.
You bit a polar bear into submission?
Yes, I stripped to the waist.
Of course.
In the middle of the Antarctic. I adopted a boxing book because, you know, I was the world heavyweight boxing champion for quite a while.
Yes.
And engaged in fisticuffs.
Are you engaged in fisticuffs with the bear? And then you bit it in submission? Yeah. With you so far?
And, so what was your question again?
It was, did you have a good trip here?
Yes, a very good trip. Thank you.
Did you come by Husky? I
did not come by Husky.
Did you come by Jet?
Well, you know,
I did notice a big parachute outside. Is that yours?
Well, you see, I first learned to fly jets back when I was 25. And I was engaged in various skirmishes against the Ruskies.
Against the Ruskies?
Yes. Yes, I was a very, very good jet pilot. And, so I decided to come here today by flying a jet and jumping out with a parachute.
That would explain the explosion. So,
yes, I did forget to bring a co-pilot.
That will happen even to the best of us. So, yes, you ejected, parachuted in. Fantastic. Pleased to have you here, and thank you for going to so much effort. What's your favourite RPG?
RPGs!
Yes, role-playing games.
Yes, that reminds me of the time I played an RPG with Queen Victoria the First. It was, I believe, the first ever RPG. I helped write it, you know.
Really?
Yes, it was called Courts and Rapiers.
Courts and Rapiers.
Indeed. Yes, we played it all night. It was quite the game.
It sounds like a game of Elizabethan swashbuckling.
Yes, except it had dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs, always important.
Yes, I met a dinosaur once, you know.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yes, a little baby T-Rex. Yes, I called it Gertrude.
Gertrude. What happened to Gertrude's parents?
I believe Gertrude was an orphan, poor thing. So I took her in and raised her, and eventually let her out into the Amazon.
Oh, what's the favourite place you've ever been to?
I rather enjoyed Waterdeep.
Waterdeep?
Yes, I met a nice chap called Minster, young chap.
He sounds Spanish.
Yes, that's what I thought at the time, but he didn't quite have the accent, you know. But he was dabbling around in those magical arts.
Oh, I see, really?
Yeah, so I taught him a few things. I taught him a few cantrips.
It's always important.
Yes.
Keep your sword sharp, as it were.
Yes, I like to think I'm his mentor.
Yeah, well, I know he does look up to you in his book, Elminster's Guide to the Plains. It's in the forward, with special thanks to Dr. Victor Von Wolfhausen-Smythe.
Yes, well, he texts me all the time.
He needs a lot of advice.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the interview with Dr. Victor Von Wolfhausen-Smythe ran a bit long, so it's been edited into multiple parts, but fear not, we'll revisit more of his adventures in the near future.
Yeah, so Angus is unfortunately not here today because he is jet-setting across the pond to America to attend Gen Con.
Ooh.
We, as you may have guessed, are not jet-setting across the pond to America to attend Gen Con.
I know, right? I need a better agent. What can I say?
So yeah, we'll be managing without Angus. He might be back next week, depending how jet-lagged he is, because I think his plane comes in next Sunday and we record on Mondays, so... We'll see whether he's here next week.
Yeah, good luck with that.
So it's just us.
Yes. So since we can't be at Gen Con, which I'm sure is not infrequent amongst the people listening to this podcast, what's going to happen at Gen Con?
Well, Gen Con has a number of big releases this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm quite excited about them, actually.
I'm listening. Tell me more.
I bet there's so many of them that I can't really decide which to pick up because I don't think I can afford to get all of these things, but...
I would skip out the supplements. Just let's have the big names.
Okay, well, I made a little list of things that sort of like jumped out at me.
Yeah. What's your top 6?
6. Interesting number that you chose there.
What can I say? I despise base 5 and I prefer to hew my own furrow, as it were.
Fair enough. So my top 6 then. Okay. In no particular order then.
In no particular order.
Okay. This is just the order that,
It's not reverse alphabetical.
Yeah, it's just the order that I saw them.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So we have Warhammer 40k Wrath and Glory.
Oh,
is
fantastic.
Coming in.
Oh.
And that really, really does look spectacular.
I hear they have an entirely new game system.
Yeah. Ulysses North America producing this under license from Games Workshop.
Yes. Yeah.
Coming out at Gen Con, the sort of like previews, there's been previews on the web. We've got some on EN World as well, showing some of the art and some of the bits and pieces from it. And it is absolutely beautiful looking.
I'm like, yeah.
And I've never played 40k before.
Really?
I played I played Wolfrup, but yes. 40k I've not played. So I'm kind of quite looking forward to giving this a shot.
Yeah. Remember, you can't go wrong with a bolt gun and chainsword. It's just iconic for a reason.
That's just sort of every Saturday night, isn't it?
I know you live in the rougher parts of Southampton, but fair enough. Moving on. Who's next?
Well, so the other big releases at Gen Con then this year. So obviously, and I've definitely mentioned this quite a few times. The Pathfinder Playtest
just once
officially released this week.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be coming out in PDF this week, but also the sort of hard copies. I've got one on pre-order actually, so hoping that's going to arrive this week. But yeah, the full playtest rules ready for everyone to delve into and start playing for the next year before the actual final game comes out at Gen Con next year. Yeah,
you've been releasing the character classes that they sent you out on EN World, haven't you?
Yeah. I think we mentioned that last week. But basically, there's 6 Pregen characters, which you can see over on here. Probably by the time you hear this, I think the playtest book will be out. So I'm sure they're in there anyway.
Fantastic.
I just can't wait to get my hands on this. See, problem with these sort of big releases at Gen Con, I don't know which to play. I really want to play the Pathfinder playtest. I really want to give Wrath and Glory a go. I'm also really interested in the Witcher game, which is another one coming out at Gen Con. Game, not something I'm desperately familiar with, but something I've heard quite a lot about recently. It's gotten a lot of buzz. It seems to be pretty much up there at the top of a lot of people's list of games they're excited about.
Yeah.
So I'm consequently excited because peer pressure works on me.
Easily influenced. Good to know, thanks.
Yes. Who's that Tanner?
Oh, thank
you. So that's coming out of Gen Con too.
Yes, yeah.
We also have Vampire 5th Edition. Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition is coming out.
And that's from White Wolf, not Onyx Path.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. There's been a little bit of sort of controversy about that.
Yeah, just a bit.
I know our sound editor Daryl sort of tweets about this quite frequently. I haven't delved into the controversy itself, so I'm not 100% sure I understand it. But there's something about the playtest book getting some kind of.
Were they courting controversy? Were they terribly tone deaf? Who can say?
I have absolutely no idea. I don't know. But can't deny that it's a big release, though.
It is a big release. I think a lot of the previous PDFs from White Wolf, as it was before it became Onyx Path, have actually been released on PDF for something like $1 ago or something.
Oh,
like
really?
That. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Modern Age from Green Running. So this is their adventure game engine system.
Yes.
There's Fantasy Age, Modern Age, and Future Age, I think. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So that's their sort of generic system, which was a kind of a spin-off their Dragon Age game a few years back. The PDF is already out. You can get it on Drive-Thru-RPG, places like that. The actual hardcover, I believe, is coming out at Gen Con.
Oh, nice. Bit of paper. Good. Like it.
There is also Runequest, role-playing in Glorantha.
Oh, yes, yeah.
That is also coming out this year, at Gen Con.
Yeah.
Classic game, going back to the sort of late 70s, early 80s. Glorantha being a classic setting, going back equally as far. So that is looking like, especially for sort of old school fans, that looks like it's going to be a big, big hit.
It sounds like there really is something for nearly everyone. Like, we're hitting a lot of different IPs, all very big, all coming out at Gen Con. What a time to be alive.
So that's my top 6. In no particular order of big things coming out at Gen Con this year. There are other things coming out at Gen Con, of course. Yeah. Dozens and dozens and dozens of them, but they're 6 that sort of like sprang to mind.
Well, what we can do is, when Angus has had a chance to lick them, and thus, as we know, absorb the knowledge contained therein by osmosis, he can come back and tell us all about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds like a fine plan.
Yeah, well, I imagine he's on a plane right now, winging his way across the Atlantic.
Oh, excellent. So I can just give him jobs to do and he will have no idea about it. That's the way forwards, I think.
Well, Gen Con doesn't start until Thursday.
Okay.
On Wednesday night, it kind of, there's the Diana Jones Awards, which is kind of a big industry get-together, which is kind of like the pre-Gen Con lubrication session.
The pre-Gen Con lubrication session.
Yes.
Well, yeah, certainly that's a way to describe the social event.
It's a good sort of mixer, sort of breaking ice, starting off the convention.
Absolutely. Let's get that convention started right.
And then, of course, the convention itself starts on Thursday. Friday night, there'll be the Ennies.
Ooh.
And, of course, the convention runs through until Sunday.
Wow. And, of course, I think we were going to do a special bonus episode to commemorate the Emmys, the winners of the Emmys.
Yeah, we'll probably do that in the next week or two. We'll go over the winners and have a quick chat about those.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm not at Gen Con this year. I'm quite upset about that, but I've been to I think it must be about 5 of them now. I don't get there very often. It's once every few years.
Yeah.
It's a long way to go for us.
Not the closest, it's true.
Yeah, and it involves all those airports and planes, and I'm not a good traveller.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I mean, I don't mind being places. I really like being places.
Yes.
Airports.
Oh, no. Nobody's favourite places to be.
Oh, I struggle with airports.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay then, how would you like to play our favourite game in all the world?
Oh boy, would I ever.
Yeah, well, let's do it.
Woohoo!
Guess the Kickstarter from just the name and nothing else. Angus is not here.
Yes, so he can't adjudicate.
So,
yes,
are you ready?
I was born ready. Let's do it.
I can see you're poised. So the first is as follows. You may have heard of this before, actually. Geist the Sin Eaters, 2nd edition.
Interesting. Geist the Sin Eaters. Well, Geist is German word for ghost. And Sin Eaters, similar to the concept of a whipping boy in some respects. It was a medieval term where you'd get somebody to accept your sins from you, usually in exchange for money. So the idea being that they would go to hell and you would be able to enter heaven with a clean conscience. That sounds a very strange thing to me, but yeah, so I'm guessing Geist the Sin Eaters 2nd edition, not a relation to Ghost the Oblivion or anything like that.
Well,
that's hard to say.
You're halfway there. So, Geist the Sin Eater came out in 2009, and it was part of the Chronicles of Darkness series, alongside sort of Vampire the Requiem, Werewolf the Forsaken, Mage the Awakening, and so forth. So this is a 2nd edition, in which you play a ghost, essentially, exactly as you said, who died with a sort of powerful burden on their soul.
Unfinished business.
Yeah, something you didn't accomplish in life. So on the other side of sort of death, you make a bargain with a powerful being called a Geist, which returns you to the world of the living, and to your own body.
Oh, awkward.
Well,
it depends. I'm going to say.
I'm assuming your body's sort of in fairly decent nick at the time, but
well, it's going to have to be really. Although that begs the question of what made you die. Like someone cuts your head off and you go back, you're like, well, got nowhere to go, I've got no head.
I will give you 4 points out of 10 for that.
4 points out of 10, despite saying that the Ghostly Oblivion is the one that came off.
All right, I'll give you 11 points out of 10.
Better.
Okay. The next one.
Yeah, I appealed the decision. It was great. Yeah, next one.
Next one. Yeah. Delta Green, The Labyrinth.
Well, that's Delta Green, the Call of Cthulhu-based role-playing game.
Yes.
Which involves an American agency tasked with dealing with things that go bump in the night.
Indeed.
Usually by introducing it to their friends, Mr. Cock and Mr. Heckler. So, the Labyrinth, I'm guessing, is an adventure, standalone adventure, and like they're going and doing some sort of thing in a labyrinthine maze. Hopefully fighting a Minotaur, but that is the way of things.
Sure, 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10 for identifying that the Delta Green, the labyrinth, is in fact Delta Green.
Yay.
The labyrinth, however, is not a physical labyrinth.
It
is a reference to the fact that American life has entered a labyrinth of twisty passages all alike. While there are many ways in, there is no way out. It's a metaphor. So it's a collection of organisations for your Delta Green campaign. Each one has like a story arc, progressing it through various stages. Some of them, it says here, some groups corrode, wither and die. Others gain hideous strength and uncover profound new horrors. Each has connections to other groups, ensuring that players find fresh hells at every turn.
That sounds very jolly.
That does sound fun, doesn't it?
I know, absolutely. So it was a collection of interwoven bureaucracies, did you say?
Organisations, yeah.
Organisations.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, that sounds very Byzantine.
The factions, essentially. Yeah. So, the next one. Okay.
Yes.
Fantasy World Creator.
Well, I'm hoping that it turns out to be a way to create worlds of fantasy.
You wouldn't be wrong.
And it would be sort of a GM creation tool, so there's 2 ways it could go. Either it is a book full of endless amounts of tables, which you can roll on, which I'm not a big fan of, or it would be, these are the design principles for how to make a world.
Okay. Those are not, in fact, the only 2 ways it can go.
What's the third way?
There's actually 2 more ways I can think of.
Far away.
So one way it isn't is a sort of like software application for designing and building fantasy worlds in campaign settings.
Okay.
I know those sort of things have existed in the past. But what this is a set of modular tiles, tokens, and more for gaming. Character sheets and tokens, wipe, dry, rewritable. You can see here it's just all sorts of different stand-up tokens and streets and buildings. And
it looks a bit like Space Hulk or like a Warhammer Quest, except it's all been washed out of colour.
Yeah, but it all does seem to be black and white, doesn't it? I don't know if that's just that particular set.
Tabula rasa. Let you draw your own things on it.
Oh, of course, it's all dry white. So, yeah, it has to be light coloured, doesn't it? Of course.
Yeah.
So they've got various sets. We've got Wildlands, Palace, Dungeon, Underground, and Housing Interiors. And also a whole bunch of different sort of monsters and 140 creatures, 24 characters, and, in total, over 450 pieces of various types.
Yeah, so just to make it clear, this is actually small things that you would move around on a board, like... interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so how many points should we give you out of that one? I'll give you 2 out of 10 for that.
Seems generous.
I think so.
Yeah.
Too generous?
No.
You can't spend these points.
You're always saying that points don't mean prizes. Oh, my whole life has been a lie.
The next one is John's Silence.
Oh, nice. Well, it's evocative.
It is.
I'm going to throw it out there and say I think John Silence is a wizard. It's an urban fantasy.
A wizard.
Wizard in the finest low magic tradition, which is where it's set in our world, but with magic intruding into it. And this is, I guess, the initial book talking about him.
Not bad. I reckon 7 out of 10 for that. That's not bad at all. Yeah. It's a complete RPG using mechanics inspired by D&D and various OSR games. And it takes inspiration from a novel called John Silence, Physician Extraordinary, by someone called Algernon Blackwood in 1908.
Okay, nice. That's old school.
Yeah, so the game, it's taken inspiration from that, but the setting of the actual game is the US between 1938 and 1998. Okay. So obviously they're not taking the actual setting, just kind of being inspired by it.
They go whack it over 60 years with one chap, haven't it?
So the characters are people of colour who are psychic detectives committed to saving Earth from planar creatures invisible to most humans.
I would not have got that from the name, I must admit.
Oh, you kind of got the sort of wizard in the modern day fighting unseen evils.
I was thinking more Harry Dresden or John Constantine, and this sounds a lot cooler than that. So, rock on.
Okay then.
John Silence.
Next one.
Yes.
Okay. Towns and Dungeons RPG decks.
Well, it sounds similar to Fantasy World Creator in that you're going to have a big pile of cards, which will have various locations written on them, and it's a quick way to generate a town and or village.
I'm going to give you 20 out of 10.
Marvellous.
Well done. So this, for GMs who want to create stuff on the fly, it's a gamer's toolkit. You get 2 decks.
Yes.
Towns and dungeons, obviously. And they supply you with layouts you can use to quickly build your adventuring location. Each deck contains 52 cards.
Nice.
Each with sort of, like 52 unique town layouts or stuff. They don't have labels on them, so if I show you the picture here, look, so you can see you'll get something like that, and then you sort of run with this sort of empty picture of a.
It's got like a dungeon complex with various blobs being the cave systems, and then you have the corridors running in between them.
Yeah, that seems quite useful.
What's that? That's a little village there at a crossroads. Yeah, crossroads with maybe a river or something running through it, and various houses and so forth. Yeah, nice visual cues to let you improvise off.
Yeah,
seems strong.
Okay, the next one, the Complete McCaig Creature Compendium, Volume 1.
And how are you spelling McCaig?
McCague. McCaig.
Seems legit. The Complete McCaig Creature Compendium.
Volume 1.
Volume 1. Right. Well, I don't know what a McCaig is, and it says less to me than, say, Grimtooth did, but it sounds like a monster manual full of various creatures and argorgles.
Wow, you're doing really well.
That's a good name.
40 points out of 20. So this is, it's basically a monster manual. 50 monsters for 5th edition by Caitlin McCaig.
Ah, I see.
So Caitlin McCaig is she's an artist and Monster Mash YouTuber, it says here.
Monster Mash YouTuber.
Yeah, so these 50 monsters include things from mounts and pack animals, solitary creatures, boss monsters, with a variety of land, air and sea creatures.
So it's all beautifully illustrated throughout. Definitely look forward to that.
Yeah, we've got a sample monster here, the Wolf Eel.
The Wolf Eel, which in the finest tradition of D&D appears to be the front half is a wolf, the back half is also a wolf, but is more eely, I guess. Yeah. But it's very pretty.
I'm trying to enlarge that, but it's not high enough resolution. I can't actually read it.
I tell a lie. It's actually 2 wolves stood next to each other. I thought that. Okay.
It is a small picture.
I see where I went wrong there. Yes, I thought it was like a sort of cut price centaur, but actually it's a sort of a slippery eel-like wolf. I guess
so.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready to try the next one?
I'm happy to try my hand. Let's do it.
Okay, the Careless Adventurer's Guide.
So the Careless Adventurer's Guide would be potentially something for, say, 5th Ed, saying this is how you deal with a dungeon full of traps and ways to roleplay better.
Bloody hell. I'm impressed because you didn't have those extra 2 words on the end. Now, when I tell you the extra 2 words on the end, you're going to see just how well you just did. Because the book is called The Careless Adventurer's Guide to Hazards.
Well, yeah.
It's a book full of traps, poisons, tricks, curses, and other nefarious things. Wow.
Well, yeah, because that's what trips up my adventures, being careless.
Yeah. God, you're doing so well this time, man, that we're going to run out of points to give you.
Excellent titles. It's all right. I'm sure you'll get them back next week.
Well, I'll give you 17 points for that.
Fantastic. Seems generous. Right. What's next?
Okay, then. What is the Infinity D4?
That's a Kickstarter, is it?
That is a Kickstarter.
The Infinity D4. Well, I'm going to go and stake out my minimum spec, which is that it's a dice. Possibly. Ooh, would it have 4 sides though? Mm-hmm. It might be a non-caltrop, non-D12 D4. I don't know, maybe it's like a round D4 or something with numbers 1 to 4 repeated endlessly across it. I literally have no idea.
You're not far off.
Oh, okay. What is it then?
8.9 points.
Interesting.
Out
Gone decimal.
of 10.
Yeah.
Gone decimal. Yeah. It is D4s. They're not round though. That's the only bit where you went slightly wrong. So it is an unusually shaped D4 designed so that you don't end up spearing your foot and bleeding to death when you step on them in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, D4s have always been traditional rogues tools because either you have like the traditional pyramid caltrop shape, or if you can enlist D12s and that gives them more of a roll like ball bearings. So either way, you don't want to stand on them because you'll just fall over or clutch your foot. And those have sort of I don't know how to describe it.
I don't know how to describe that shape either.
It's a bit like a pouch in that it's got a curve and it's full of curves and it looks a bit like a lozenge as well.
I guess.
In fact, it reminds me of with USB drives, and you have that bit where you have a cap for a USB drive and you stick it in. That's what those remind me of.
I'm not sure why it's called an Infinity D4.
Seriously, the name of the company.
I guess, I don't know.
Is it balanced? I guess it must be.
It must be. Who knows?
Yes.
Anyway, that is the end of
our favourite
game in all the world.
Oh, fantastic.
I don't know how many points you scored there, but I think you did very well.
I did very well. Thank you.
We have run out of points.
Huzzah!
To hand out.
That's
We
right.
have half a point left. See the box of points over there? There's only half a point left in there.
That's right. We'll go on Amazon and get some in.
Yeah, there's probably plenty more. Maybe we could run a Kickstarter for points.
We could run a Kickstarter for points. I mean, but...
So, last week, Peter, we held a contest.
We did. It was very exciting.
Do you remember the question?
It was how much do we think the Guildmasters Guide to Ravnica will weigh?
Almost. The question was how much did Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes weigh, according to our scientific calculations?
Deeply scientific. I was involved in everything.
So, we had 3 entries.
Yes.
The prize for this is a softcover copy of Ireland at the Axis of the World, which is 5th edition adventure start of the Zeitgeist Adventure Path.
Yes.
So we've got 3 entries. So shall we select the winner randomly from these 3 entries?
Okay.
Our contest potential winners are Lee Donovan, Carl White, and Tyler McConnell. So shall I read out what they said?
Okay.
So Lee Donovan, he wrote in and said, Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes weighs a svelte 2 pounds. Ooh. Great podcast. Ensures I fail to concentrate on work for the best part of an hour every Wednesday. Keep up the above average work. Which is
marvellous.
Thank you, Lee. Carl White. Hi folks. Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes weighed 2 pounds. Proper science. I'm glad he appreciated our proper scientific method there. Khan says, many thanks for the tabletop RPG talk. It's exactly what I've been looking for to feed my RPG acquisition disorder. A great range of coverage of the big players, but also the more indie end of the market. Great stuff. And he goes on to suggest that we could sort of have a look at some of the micro games out there at some point. So I wonder, why don't we cover that as a topic?
I think we should.
In a week or two.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And finally, our friend Tyler McConnell.
Hey, Tyler.
He says, hello, me again. Hopefully I'm not being too annoying entering each week's podcast. I just seriously love your podcast and enjoy hunting for the answers. Anyway, he says, Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes weighs, according to Amazon, 2 pounds. According to Morris's unofficial tabletop laboratory, 241.5 pounds minus 239.5 equals £2. So all three of those were correct. So let's roll the dice.
How exciting.
So
Here we go.
1 to 2 is Lee.
Yep.
3 to 4 it's Carl. 5 to 6 is Tyler.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, what does that say? It fell on the floor. What does it say?
Oh, lucky one.
A 1. That is Lee Donovan. So Lee Donovan, you have won. So thank you very much for entering. I will get that book out to you as soon as possible. I'll be replying to your email to get your address, and I'll send that straight out.
Fantastic.
And so on to this week's competition.
Oh, yes.
Have you got a question?
I thought maybe we should do something based on the interview with Dr. Victor Von Wolfhausen-Smythe.
I think that's an excellent idea. What shall we ask?
How about the title of his role-playing game that he taught Queen Victoria?
The title of the role-playing game that Dr. Von Wolfhausen-Smythe taught Queen Victoria. Okay. So send your answer in to morruspodcast@gmail.com. And the prize this week will be a digest-sized copy of the science fiction role-playing game.
Oh, that's a lovely prize. Very, very portable, very pocket-sized, and it's got a lot of fantastic information. I especially like the tables of scientific gibberish that one can randomly generate.
Oh, yes. I do rather enjoy a little bit of scientific... Technobabble is the technical term.
Technobabble. There we go. Yeah, so competition must be sent through morruspodcast@gmail.com. The deadline is Sunday, not Friday, but Sunday, midnight GMT.
Yeah.
Whilst we're begging for money as we are, we should talk about the Patreon, which is, what's the address of the Patreon again?
The Patreon is at patreon.com/Morrus. And interestingly, I put last week's Patreon exclusive episode on the main feed.
Fantastic.
So it's not actually Patreon exclusive, because I thought it might be interesting if people sort of got to listen to just one of the sort of bonus content episodes just to see what the Patreon content is like. So it tends to be between sort of 20 minutes and half an hour.
Yes.
Depending on, how much bonus content we have each week. And you can find it over on the Patreon. But don't just support us just because you want to get the bonus content, because the Patreon supporters are what pays for this entire podcast, the entire show.
Thank you so much. We enjoy doing this. We hope you enjoy listening.
Hello everyone, your editor Daryl here to let you know what to expect in this week's deleted scenes. This week you'll get more of Peter the cover art critic, fun with unfortunate acronyms, some word origins, and a bit of behind the scenes of this week's interview with Dr. Victor Von Wolfhausen-Smythe. Sign up now on Patreon at patreon.com/Morrus to get instant access to extra content every single week.
Okay, well I think that's it for this week, Peter.
Yes, it's been a blast.
It has been the best podcast ever this week, I think.
I can't dispute you in any way. Definitely looking forward to doing next week. We'll be finding out more about Gen Con, more about the Ennies, see who's won.
Thank you for listening. It's goodbye from me, Russ.
And it's goodbye from me, Peter.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Well, that was quite simply the worst podcast I have ever had the misfortune to listen to. Somebody will need to be punished, but I can't decide whether to use the thumbscrews on them, on their disgusting hands, or if I should simply throw one of them in the moat.